Works. So good day. I will present the BSC of Manno, and Vladimir will present the Conversational Banking. We have the aim that we want to tell you the story about UBS, how we are here, why we are here, and what's the background, okay? So a little bit about me. I'm in UBS, I'm the head of the BSC Manno. I am the head of the staff, and I'm working in UBS since 20 or close to 27 years. So it's a long, long time I'm here in UBS with different rules, obviously. And this is really good where I am. And Vladimir, if you want.
Thank you. Hello, so I'm Vlado. I'm working as program manager in UBS since over 2 years, and mainly focusing on conversational banking platform that we are building, and I will tell you more about that later. Looking forward.
Thank you. So I'm explaining a little bit about UBS, okay? So UBS is the universal bank in Switzerland, okay? We have 200 branches and 4,000 plus client advisors. And we talk about, in the world where UBS is in, about 72,000 employees. It's a bit of a mess, but we are there, okay? And we have a purpose for us, okay? It's why we are reimagining the power of investing and contracting stuff. And I want to bring this stuff to you, how it works, okay? A little bit story about UBS and about this topic of the BSC Manno. It was opened in 2018 when we have announced this world. And we started in June with 2 people, okay? Now we are a little bit more, and I'll explain later how big we are right now, okay? So I think it's nothing more to tell about this, but that's it. So what we do in our BSC, we have 3 main entities or main activities here. It's the analytics interface, data analytics, and also the business intelligence, what we do. So we are here in UBS with different topics and different worlds where we're working. And this is the most important impact because we are on analytics and data-driven topics here, okay? And I would like to bring in this topic here. We are now 92 people. So we have had growing since 2018, also with the COVID. We had also COVID here. And this means now we are 4 years later, we are 92 people, where we have, again, developed and scaled, so you can read it by your own, big stuff. And we have also driven the collaboration with ITSIA. ITSIA is the part of SUBSI and with the USI, where we are with ITSIA, we have 20 people who works with us, okay? And this shows also to us that we are, and we have to invest here in the localized organization here in Lugano. So it means we are bringing the work to Lugano for have good people here. And this is also a topic why we are here, because we want just to learn and also to make learning for our staff. I think this is the important bit, and I also encourage you that we have this topic here and we can also to work on this stuff going forward, because it's really important for us, okay? And the collaboration between UBS and ITSIA is a really good base. So we have, in 2018, we started, 2019, bringing a different world to us, and we have really good results about this collaboration. It's really interesting what they do for us. And we need also the people. We need this flair of youngins and youngest people with these new ideas that we have, okay? Some spoiler alerts, let's say, this is a topic that we are looking for. We have now an open vacation of 30 persons, okay? So this is growing, and this is really enough, and this is really a high level of people that we are looking for meta stuff, because of course we are driven by this data-driven and data warehouse and so on, but we are also looking for the new generation where is the cloud version where for Azure, where we're working together. And this is also important for us, that we have data engineers and so on, and we can make the topic here. Okay? And you see here, we have also the internship of 2020, data science and AI. So we have really a lot of positions that we are gathering, that we are publishing, and I would like really to encourage you, if you see something, and also to make it happen, contact us, and we will make it for your life and for your work also, okay? And I think that's it. I will give the hands to Vlado, and the questions, we will come to the later end, the questions, okay? Thank you.
Hello. So our vision is to bring natural language, which is the way that we speak, as a way of interaction between the clients, the employees, and the bank. So we want to bring another level, another dimension of interaction. Right now, everything is happening, it's through click and drop or through calls with agents, but when you're really interacting with the bank, you're always using like interfaces. And we want to bring like natural language to a way of interacting, which is the way that we speak with our kids, with our family. So imagine that you are a client and you want to change your address. So instead of having to go and look through all the e-banking or in mobile banking, you can basically just type, oh, I want to change my address, and you can directly do it immediately. Or eventually, going even further, you can just basically call the phone, and you will have a bot talking to you, and you can change your address immediately. So this is what we want to bring. We want to bring like an easy way of interaction. Second aspect, that's what I describe is more on the user experience enhancement. But second aspect, also efficiency gains, right? So we have also agents that are right now replying all those emails, which are very simple, like, oh, my PIN is not working, I would like to block my card or change my address, right? So this is very boring because they're just very iterative answer, the same questions all the time. So we want to like kind of enhance this, so avoid that these agents have to reply that, or support them when replying that, so they don't have to like kind of think about all these very mechanical, simple aspects. So that will be the aspect of automation and efficiency that we are trying to bring through this initiative. We are covering different users, so much clients, agents, client advisors that are supporting the clients when making investments, but also like our employees that are kind of looking for information in the bank, or they want to support those clients advisors with information. So all of that is what we are trying to cover. Our initial idea is starting with use cases that are on the support and efficiency gains. So that's why, as we see, we have more than 3 million of interactions. It goes up to 5 million if we include like calls in Switzerland only. And based on analysis of historical data, we saw clearly that around 40% of that, there is a potential to be automatized. There are simple queries or simple questions. So that's what we are starting to focus on. Of course, in the future, this vision is like growing a lot. There is also like on the aspects of sales and also promoting products, etc., to really bring the bank to the client in a more simple way. So how we do that? We are building a platform on which we build different applications. So we have a team for that. Our team is growing, and those different applications range from, let's say, simple support of the emails when they are replying on the agents, when they have to type all those emails, or if you're a client of UBS and you would like to ask for support, you will have like automatic answers to your questions. We have also working on like search engine in e-banking, or eventually also like chatbots, speech to text, and analytics on all of that. And how we do that is we are working on cloud. This was a decision made which on one side is a complicated topic because you have to bring all the cloud. We were the first ones to work on the cloud in this direction. But at the same time, you have also leveraging other aspects because you can use all these cognitive services that the big cloud providers are having with them. So on one side, we have to like kind of put all the infrastructure and all the readiness of the cloud. So we have a lot of problems. Like for example, as you know, like the client data has to remain always in Switzerland. So these like kind of different laws and these restrictions they have to have in mind when we are preparing all of that. So that creates a lot of technical complexity, security issues that we have to have. But the other side, we can leverage like the cloud services like Luis for natural language processing, from Microsoft for like text analytics for translations. Eventually also you have speech to text, so much from like speech recognition to generation, and eventually also like bot frameworks to build chatbots. But one interesting point about all of that is that when you have models like that in production with applications that users are using, you need to have a proper pipeline how you can update those models. You know, models based on natural language are live models that you have to be constantly updating. You will also work in an iterative way. You have information from the clients, how the models have been working, and eventually you will be able to improve those models. So you have to have, in the productive environment, a proper pipeline for model deployment and validation, right? So you don't want just somebody to change something that is in production without having a proper validation steps in the middle. So that's another aspect which brings another level of complexity when you are working with models in productive environments with clients or with real applications that are facing users. Two main challenges that we have when I'm talking about the infrastructure and bringing the cloud aspect. So one is, as I mentioned, we have the client data. So what we need is that all the cognitive service, all the services that we will use for cloud have to stay in data centers in Switzerland. So this is something that maybe you heard also, like cloud sovereignty. It's a topic that is being discussed. So this is a very important topic, and it's not so simple, especially something that companies and providers are learning through interactions with like banks and other institutions that have all these very strict restrictions. So, for example, how we can avoid that the data is accessed from outside, we have to create multi-factor authentication. So anybody that is using with the data is going to have going to check with their phone where they're locating with the GPS. It's going to check also with their IP address from the computer they're locating. So there is a lot of restriction put in place to double check that all the data is always remaining in the country. Then there is also another aspect, which is when you think about cloud, I don't know if some of you open like an account, I don't know, with Google, with Azure, with Amazon. You see it's like very simple. You just open, click, drop, create a resource, and you have already your cloud running. This is not something that happens so easy when you are in a big company, when you have a lot of restrictions, you have a lot of policies. And all these have a reason behind that, because you want to be ensuring that the way that you develop and deploy things is compliant with all the regulatory processes. So I would like to focus now we discussed a lot about the cloud aspect and infrastructure, but now I would like to focus more on the NLP, which is maybe more something that is more touching for you. So when we are thinking about all of these products, one has to think, okay, but which product I should start working on? What is the right application to start working on? So we decided to start something simple that's on support topic. That's what I was mentioning before on this automation aspect. So that was one aspect. But the second is like, okay, now I know which products. So for example, I can support the client when they are asking questions. But the other is like how I really provide the right answers. How I provide and I separate those different questions. What are the right topics to focus on? How I ensure that the topics I'm working on are the right ones and are going to solve the biggest of the problem. So for that, the first step that we did is to analyze historical data. So we took like the data of different years. We have over 1 million queries. We have 4 languages. We do clustering of data and extract what are the typical topics from that. So after that analysis, that's, let's say, a bit more theoretical somehow. We have to go back and discuss with the agents. So they are the experts that are interacting with the clients at everyday level. And then with both information, so you have like the data point, which is the quantitative aspects to that. Then you have the qualitative aspect, which is coming from the people that are interacting with clients every day. You create those data sets of those are the topics. Those are the most relevant topics. Those are what they see in every day that the clients are having problems with. So that's why we created like an initial 150 topics. That was the first priority. And then we have to iterate and shorten it down to what is like kind of the bulk and the essence, the low-hanging fruits of all of those interactions, because we cannot cover everything. So then the third step is to develop the model. So once you have all that information, now you have to train those models. So you decide, okay, those are the topics that I'm going to cover. Those are the answers that those bots in the different situation are going to provide. But now you have to train those bots or those applications, you know. So we have to also have in mind that we are working with 4 languages. So this is not a simple task, because some things that you wrote in one language may not work the same way as another. So you have to involve like a lot of people to build that and train the models. But as an initial reference, you start with the historical data. So that's your entry level, but then you have to work iteratively, and that's the number 4. So once you have your initial step, okay, I have my, let's say, beta version of my bot, you start going to pilots, you run it, and you see what happens. And then is when you really see the real data, so the real evidence, as they use in pharma. So what you see is like, what is the interactions we see? Like we have like over 2,000 interactions daily, and we analyze that, we review how the bot is behaving, we see where the bot is missing something, and then with that we can update those different applications. So now I'd like to focus on one interesting point, is that all this process of creating those models is not so obvious. So in most of these let's say applications that we were working on these intent entity classifiers. You know, so basically what you have is you have a text from the client or a query that you want to analyze, and you try to extract the intents and entities. So those intents and entities have to be predefined in advance, you know? And this is what we were doing in this previous step when analyzing historical data, etc., to understand, okay, these are the topics we want to cover. So our first approach was kind of the most simple. It's like, okay, I create like an intent per each of those topics that I want to cover. Now, this was not working so well because, as you can see, we have a lot of overlapping topics. So for an intent, which is equivalent to a verb, you can imagine change, you may have different entities, which is like, let's say, objects over which you act on the verb for the same intent, right? So for example, you can see here, I would like to change my address, I would like to update my phone number, I would like to modify my password. All of that is corresponding to the concept of change. But however, all these entities are different. So that's what we realized after working and having everything in production, that we need to go to a bit more interesting model when we use those more like concept-based. So we have like verbs like are common to different entities, and then we can refine our search of what is the right answer to the client. Now, a part of that process, we also saw that sometimes they were so overlapping some topics that we have to decide which one we keep. And sometimes we have topics which we saw that the volumes, even despite of discussion with the clients, we initially thought, okay, these are interesting topics. Once we went to the real data, we realized that the volumes were very low. So then when you start merging topics or separating topics. So that's why it's very important to work in an iterative fashion. And the last step is that we also realized that sometimes it was still, despite of having this intent and entity separation to have a kind of much more granular filtering, we still had sometimes problems because sometimes for the same intent, some of those entities that were appearing together in sentences. So we have to create more like kind of rule-based models with prioritization to be able to separate those answers. So we have like kind of like 3 steps. So you have the intent, the entity, and then some rule-based prioritization. And that gave us a much more robust model to cover those topics. So how I managed to build that? So we started over 2-3 years ago with all of this initiative. We have like quite big team. We started with a very small team, and we are kind of over 20 people working on that. And this is growing. It's a very big topic, many use cases that we are pushing forward. But what I would like to highlight here is that we work in Agile and Scrum, which is like the new and modern way of developing. We took that, and we are learning also through that a lot. I would like to highlight on the left side, what you see is like standard, let's say, product AI-based team. So you have like an IT development team, right, with all of the kind of basic skills and roles. But also because we have an AI behind, right, you have model developers and data scientists also involved there. And because we have a UX application with a user experience, we also have UX expert, and this was very important. And that's why I insist on the interactive way of working, because we also realized, like, once we launched certain applications and we saw people interacting with that, we had to iterate and change and improve some of those different topics. And now, due to the complexity of what we are building of these different NLP applications, they have a very, very strong business impact and integration. You have to choose the right topics. You have to choose the right answers that you want to give to clients. So that's why you have a lot of business involvement into building all of that and bringing that life in a way that is really bringing value to the clients. And of course, because we are talking about language, we have to have communication experts. They are so much involved into crafting those answers to be in the right tone of voice. We have 4 languages to cover, at least in Switzerland, and we are expanding, so eventually we'll have more of that. But also to help us to train those models and review all of these data, if that makes sense or not. And because we have client data, we have data in different countries, we are on the cloud, we have a lot of experts that we need to bring on board, so much from security aspects, from technological aspects, and as much of like data protection, right? So as we have in different talks, also like the ethics of data and how you really use that in, like in Google or in Roche that was discussing that. It's very important that you comply with all of these legal requirements to be able to have this application in the right way set. And as a last point, I would like to say, like, all this process is a kind of learning process. And these, I would say, like the keywords of what we experience in this journey from the beginning. So if any of you one day have to start a project like that, I will definitely think about this. So first, I will start very early and work iteratively. What I mean with that is that try to put my print hello world on display as soon as possible into productive environments. So like you dare risk all of the technological aspects behind it. Then also like that you try to have like as simple as possible model, and then you start working iteratively and see how things work. Because there is a lot of things that we like to work in academia. Myself, I was in academia for many years, is that you want to build the super rocket star thing from the beginning and think of all of the possible cases. But this is not reality. When you are really having something that is applied, you realize that there is so many things that you cannot predict. You cannot imagine what will happen. That is much, much better and much more efficient to work with something small, something controllable. You go there and you see what happens. You see the data, you see the people interacting, you gather the feedback, and then you iterate. Of course, for all of that, you need to have the right setting, right? You cannot just now go and directly show the client something that is not meaningful. But still, you have to put humans loop inside of that, because machines are not perfect. Second aspect is bring experts and understand what is the problem. So we need to bring experts so much from internally, from the teams, like also externally, and of course from the vendors. And this is very important because those people have experience in other aspects. And many times we want to say, okay, we just want to do it like that. But just one short conversation with somebody can save you tons of times. So that's very important to talk to those experts. Third point, I would say, is technical. Don't undermine the technical complexity and the details. So this relates a bit to the first point. Is like, don't think like, okay, I will just do it. So just build the things and get them into production. Then you will realize many things that you could not think in advance. So even you think like, oh, like as I was mentioning before, myself, I imagine, oh, we just build something in the cloud. It's very similar to what I can do myself with my private account, but this is not reality. And that's why you need to start early and go in an iterative way. And the last point is don't forget the details. So it is very, very important that you have clear what is your objective, what you want to achieve. But go to all of the details, discuss those things, have those very detailed documents when you really discuss those things with the important people and the technical experts, because then you will realize many things. For example, with Microsoft, we had for months discussion about topic, and until we really didn't like write down everything that was needed, we didn't realize many things that were missing. And that cost months after, for example, with the vendor to bring back all of this feature that was described in there to have these security aspects and technical readiness to build an application like that. And with this, I would like to close my part. I would like to really, really thank you for listening, and especially thank our team, because this was like not easy at all. And these guys are really awesome. And we are really growing the team, and we'll be happy also to involve any of you in this process. Thanks a lot.
So, thank you very much for these insights from a corporate. Are there any questions from the audience which you would like to place?
You mentioned that there are problems with testing the models before putting them into production. What's your approach there? Do you just do A/B testing or something like this so that you validate maybe the new model in production with a small amount of people?
Yeah, so I think there are two aspects. Yeah, I think that's a very good question. So there are two aspects to that. One is to put the infrastructure. So I will come across in the wrong way. I don't mean like problem, but it's a topic that is important to have in mind. Is that you have to have the right infrastructure so you can run the models, because they have to have like data access. So they are already in the productive environment. So you have to, and so you can run the models, like train them there, and then do some validation, and eventually move to production. So what we do is to think in your direction. Is one, to have like an example of sets of questions to be sure that the model is not degrading, and like a basic set of queries are always supported in the right way. So this is very important. This is part of the validation. And then also what we do is that we have a bit of an iterative process. So when we deploy things to first to like kind of a small group of people, and then eventually we push it to the clients. Will that answer your question? Thank you.
Okay, I think we have another one before we go to the next. Here.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I was wondering what you found out was the biggest challenge when connecting the two worlds, like the bank-related processes, because a lot of the things you described mean that actually things need to happen behind the scenes. And the world of understanding intents and putting people through the processes and whatever. So if you look back, what was the biggest challenge you encountered there?
Yeah. So I think there are, I will say, two of them. One is technologically, not knowing maybe exactly what is the right way to go. So that's why, as I told you, we had this, we started with a kind of the simple approach, and then we started refining that. So that was something that, looking backwards, I don't know if it would be much easier to do it in a different way, but definitely maybe we'll have involved another experts. We tried to do that, but it was not always too easy to find the right people that have done something similar. So maybe that's one thing we will try to do there, is to learn on that side. And second is try to involve business maybe earlier. As I said, we started a lot with this historical data, etc., and then reviewing them. But sometimes what we did, we discussed a lot with like managers and they had a lot of experience because they did before, but they were not maybe always the people that were doing the daily life. And then once we went to some more structural discussion with really the people that were doing the things and using that, that's why it was important to go as fast as possible to production, so we can really give that to people in the bank and they see how it works. So that's why this iterative process is very important. So bring those people that really have this daily life experience as soon as possible and onboarded and gather that information. I think that will be the second aspect. That is very important.
Okay, I thank you very much for your insight on this topic, and I invite the next speaker to the podium. I think there might be some further questions. Please take the opportunity while these two guys are here during the lunch break and have the other questions which you didn't ask so far. Thank you very much.